Have you ever wanted to play a game where the main story is tense, thrilling, filled with compelling and fun characters, and intrigue about the games played behind the scenes in the gray zones of society? A main story that tackles serious issues while still retaining a lot of heart and doing so in an incredibly respectful and insightful manner? Before you say yes, do you also want that game's side content to be the absolute wackiest hijinks imaginable, as well as having an impressive set of well-designed and thought-out minigames? Well, have I got the game, or potentially even games, plural, for you. Yakuza Like a Dragon is all this, and more. Yakuza Like a Dragon was a turning point for the Yakuza series in several ways. First, instead of being a traditional beat-em-up game, Yakuza Like a Dragon is a turn-based RPG. Second, it introduced a new main series protagonist. Third, it was the final game to use the Yakuza name for overseas titling. From here on out, the series has gone by Like a Dragon. Yakuza Like a Dragon was developed by Ryuga Gotoku Studio and published by Sega. It was released in Japan in January of 2020 for the PS4. The game was then released worldwide in November of 2020, which is also when PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series ports for the game were released. Since then, a PS5 port has come out, as well as a release for the Amazon Luna, which I know I was aware existed, but I thought by now it had died out. Guess not yet, based on my research. No words yet as to whether the game will be joining Yakuza 0 with a Switch 2 port, but I imagine it is only a matter of time. As for the reception of the game, Yakuza Like a Dragon has had great reviews from players and critics alike, was nominated for several awards, although Final Fantasy VII Remake won most of those, and sold over 1.8 million copies. Yakuza Like a Dragon has you playing as Ichiban Kasuga. Early on, we see Ichiban in his days as a Yakuza for the family, doing his work as best he can while holding to his belief in him being a hero like in his favorite RPG series Dragon Quest, and he practically worships at the feet of the patriarch, Masami Arakawa. That life is upended by a stint in prison. He emerges to a world very different from the one that he left. Not just in technology and locations changing, but in the shifting loyalties and intrigue that took place while he was behind bars. All that he thought he had may be gone, but Ichiban isn't going to take that lying down. With the help of an assortment of people tossed to the sides of society, Ichiban sets out on his heroic quest to help those who can't help themselves, take on the powerful, and discover what happened to his family and the home he thought he knew. Yakuza Like a Dragon's narrative hinges strongly on Ichiban Kasuga as a protagonist, which is why it's great to know that he is a fantastic protagonist. He is a good-natured optimist with incredibly strong loyalty and a stubborn streak a mile long. He will go to the ends of the earth to help those he cares about, and will go nearly as far for random people who need his help too. That care and stubbornness gets him into a lot of predicaments, but it earns him favor with those who still hold to the old ways, and a group of loyal friends around him. It's also nice seeing an adult cast for an RPG, and not just 20-somethings, but 30 plus, if not more. His journey throughout the game is a joy to see, and it really is a journey. The writing for the game has some wild ups and downs that our cast will go through, with bold moves made by powerful people and equally brave counters by others. To say it is an entertaining ride is to somehow understate it. The intro may be a little slow with all of the cutscenes, but you'll be glad you sat through it, because that base is what makes the game's story so compelling. On top of that, the writing touches on plenty of real-world political, social, and cultural issues in Japan in a nuanced and approachable way. I appreciated the care that the writing team put into the narrative and all the characters, and I think that's a major reason I had such a good time with the game. The character bonding moments with the party are also nice bonuses and reveal greater depths to each of them. As for gameplay, there is a lot to like about Yakuza Like a Dragon. The game does take its cues from traditional RPGs like Ichiban's favorite Dragon Quest, but there are plenty of differences and nice ideas that make the experience even better. You have a party of up to 4 characters, each with a class that helps determine their abilities. You use MP to use abilities other than standard attacks and guarding, and there are a lot of creative abilities to use. On offense, you'll get prompts that if you press the button in time will give you a damage boost, and on defense, there is a similar timing press you can do to guard against enemy attacks. That one doesn't receive an on-screen prompt though, you have to time it yourself. I like the way Like a Dragon implemented this mechanic mainly because it was just extra. It helped somewhat, but wasn't essential to beating your foes. There are different attack types, from the various weapons to the elemental attacks, that tend to give status effects that you will have to prepare for on offense and defense. This game gives a pretty fair balance of abilities and gimmicks to you as the player as well as to your foes, which I always like seeing at a game. However, the game isn't that hard apart from the bosses and one huge difficulty spike. All I'm saying is, give the arena in Sotenbori a try as soon as you can. Given the amount of encounters you're going to run into while running around the city though, I'm okay with it not being too difficult a game, otherwise those fights would take forever. Some other quirks of the system that can be good and can be bad include, I'll tell you which ones are good or bad on the screen as I talk about them, allies following up on your attacks, enemies being able to block your attacks if your target is behind them, Ichiban dying being a game over, pound mates where you can pay money to get an outside friend to help you, and attacks where enemies or allies can pick up things from the environment to give a boost to attacking. The combat in general feels very dynamic for a turn-based RPG, in part because of things like the quick-time button presses, the animation of the characters moving around during battle, and the way the characters interact with the environment. Yes, you can have a car hit someone during combat, and yes, there is an achievement for it. One of the things that I liked best about the gameplay though was the creativity put into the enemies, and not only because of the high quality puns that they use for their names, plus the great variety of abilities. The various jobs have specific abilities that make so much sense, from the idol gathering their fans to beat down enemies, to the host spraying ice cold drinks on their foes. There's so many RPGs I have played that are either traditional sword and sorcery, or futuristic tech with lasers and rifles. There's a dearth of RPGs set in modern days with creative modern versions of the traditional classes and abilities. Yakuza is a prime example of how to do that and how to do it right. The game simply doesn't take things too seriously, and so they can make things look cool or wacky just for the sake of it, while still being grounded in the reality of the Yakuza world and our real-life world. Now, while the main game has more than enough to offer, Yakuza Like a Dragon, like its predecessors, wasn't content to stop there because there is so much more to do with the side content. The sub-stories littered around the city are very well done. Generally, the mark of a good side story for me is its memorability. I remember specific side quests from games like The Witcher and Trails, and Yakuza Like a Dragon has plenty of memorable side stories, but all in different ways. Plenty start out one way and end up another way completely, and I pretty much always thought it was worth it when I tackled one of the sub-stories. Beyond the side stories, here are some of the other activities you can engage with, some of which are so detailed, they're pretty much their own entire additional game. There is a karaoke rhythm game you can do with your party members at your go-to bar, the movie theater watching game where you have to stop the sheep from putting you to sleep, the vocational school where you can take quizzes to increase Ichiban's personal stats, some traditional games such as various arcade Sega games, darts, golf, shogi, or mahjong. There is a minigame introduced to you early on involving collecting cans in the city, then there are the big two. The ones that could be their own separate games if RGG Studio wanted to make it happen. Dragon Kart, which is pretty much Mario Kart Yakuza edition, with creatively laid out tracks, weapons, and abilities, and racers to race against. It's very high energy and a lot of fun, but maybe you want something a little more office-like, professional, and profitable? Well then, try your hand at managing a company in the management minigame. This one is the biggest and most detailed minigame. You can even get a whole new party member from it if you play your cards right. Buy up properties and upgrade them, hire employees, train and keep them happy, make smart investments, and see your profits and rank in the stock market rise. Can you make Ichiban Confections the #1 company? Well, you'll have to do all the management as well as handling tense stockholders meetings where you have to do a Danganronpa-esque refuting of points, well-timed apologies, and convince the shareholders in dramatic fashion that your company is on a ride to the top. This side content even connects with other side content because a good number of sub-stories you complete will result in new people applying to work for your company. But they're all not good enough unless they are Omelette the Chicken, who is a true powerhouse. Truly, Yakuza has pretty much mastered side content that is deep and rewarding but truly optional, so main story only players will still have a great experience. That being said, I still give a wholehearted recommendation to the side content, especially the management. Now, as for the presentation, I've already talked about the creativity of the design of the characters and especially the various enemies and their skills. Sure, plenty of them are ridiculous, but without losing the grounded style of the rest of the game. I don't think I've ever talked about a game like this before, but Yakuza Like a Dragon has a great sense of tone. The silly scenes are silly without compromising the more serious scenes of the game. Much of that is in the way the game presents them via music, voice acting, art, and animation. It's an impressive unity of design that is seen throughout the entire game. The game feels like a cohesive world even when we're seeing over-the-top battle animations and physics-defying actions. I'd also say the artistic design has a great sense of style in its framing and choices on what is and isn't shown on screen. The music is solid, evoking exactly the tone each scene needs, with particular praise I'd say for the battle themes, which kept me engaged in all the fights. For voice acting, I'm aware the series has had some mixed history, especially with English dubs. For Yakuza Like a Dragon though, the performances across the board are excellent. Then again, you'd never hear me complain about hearing Kaiji Tang, George Takei, Greg Chun, Jeremy Lee, and more in a game, so I'm not the most unbiased source. For the UI, the game does a good job of showing what is important on screen in and out of battle. Navigating around the city is a breeze with a clear map. The user experience has some kinks that I hope the sequel works out. In battle, that includes the way that targeting enemies works, because switching between them seems random at times. Out of battle, there are little inconveniences that rub me the wrong way, like taxis only being available to travel to after you've used that particular taxi before. That's the main fast travel method of the game, and it would be great if they could be traveled to as soon as they were discovered and not have to require traveling and paying every taxi to get these open up for future travel. Yakuza Like a Dragon stands out in almost every way it can when it comes to presentation, and that's what really stuck with me in the long term. Yakuza Like a Dragon is a great game because the game's story is filled with fascinating and likable characters, thematically deep and emotionally rich writing, a solid gameplay system with some fun ideas for the turn-based RPG genre, good presentation, and a plethora of side content. I can't speak for Yakuza fans as this is my first game from the series, but I'm ready to play more, and I recommend this game to any RPG fans out there. I do know the sequel has more of a connection to the previous games than this one did, so I may try to go through those games before proceeding to Infinite Wealth, but we shall see. Let me know your thoughts on Yakuza Like a Dragon. I especially would love to hear from those that, like myself, started here, as well as from older fans who have been with the series far longer than I have. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day, and happy gaming.